Hi, Tim Unger here, and in this video, we are going to use a Python program to generate math problems, and then we're going to create a PDF with this. So you can create your own worksheets. All you need to know is a little bit of Python, and you need to be able to write a little bit of HTML, and we're going to write it to a markdown file, and then we're going to use the Atom text editor, which is free, and an extension to convert the markdown file to a PDF. So you can create your own worksheets doing this. It works very well. You don't have to come up with the problems yourself. All you have to do is know the algorithm for the problem, which is good. So if you're teaching this, you'd want to learn the algorithm of coming up with the problem. In this example, I'm going to use quadratics. I'm going to make sure the quadratics are factorable, and I'm going to have the term in front of x squared equal to 1. So they're going to be the easier factorable quadratics. I did a prior video where I created a bunch of problems into a text file that were harder to factor quadratics, but you can write this for any type of program. Anyway, so let's get started. So what you're going to need to do, and I'm going to demonstrate this on a Chromebook, by the way. It's about a $200 Chromebook that I bought from Walmart. It's not an expensive computer. And what I did is I installed Linux on it. So to do that, all I did was go to my settings, and you go to Advanced and Developers, and then you'll see a button here that says Turn on the Linux Development Environment. You want to turn that on. This little terminal will pop up and install the stuff. I pin it because I use the terminal sometimes. And then once you do that, you can go to atom.io or look up Atom text editor, but it'll bring you to atom.io. And you can download the .deb file, okay? And then you'll fire up the Atom text editor, okay? And so let's open that. And this will take a moment to open, and we're going to get coding and create our worksheet. So I have a folder called Worksheets. When you initially open this up, let me remove this project folder. You're going to get this thing to add folders here, and you're going to have a little menu on the top. I've toggled it off. Anyway, so I would go and add a folder. I've already created a folder called Worksheets. I would open that one, and then I've got my Worksheets folder here. And now to create a file in Worksheets, I can just highlight Worksheets and then hit A, and then you're going to enter the new file name. So I'm going to call this quadratics.py, and so I'm going to create that file, and I'll highlight it again and hit A again and do quadratics.markdown. Okay, so now I've created the markdown file. Now I'm going to just close the markdown file. We're going to write to it later. And I'll show you what we might actually write a little bit of stuff just before we create the problems. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and program some Python. Okay, let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. So we're going to create a class, and we're going to call that class quadratic. And we're going to instantiate the class, and I'm going to pass in the self, and I want quadratics that are factorable, so I'm going to take a quadratic of the form x plus a times x plus b. So I really want to pass in a and b. These are going to be variables that we're going to create, okay? And I want to put a colon there. Okay, so now I'm going to say self.a equals a. Let me undo that. Self.b equals b. Sometimes it auto completes for you and stuff you don't want it to auto complete. But it's a great text editor. It's awesome. Okay, so then we're going to create another function, and let's call this function coefficient 1. And actually we call this a method. So coefficient 1, and we're going to pass in the self, and we want to create a coefficient 1, something in front of the x squared, a coefficient 2, something in front of x, and then a constant 1, which is the term by itself. Okay, so what I'm going to do for coefficient 1 is, well, coefficient 1, and I'm going to make a variable, and I'm going to call it coefficient underscore just 1. That's going to equal 1 because, remember, we're doing x plus a times x plus b, so we're always going to have 1x squared at the start. But if we were doing something harder, we'd pass in probably a, b, c, and d. So you'd have, ax plus b times cx plus d, and then you would have to figure it out. So, it's nice to create a method just even though it's going to be 1, okay? And we're going to return at the end of this method coefficient 1. Okay, I'm then going to create another method, and I'm going to call this coefficient underscore 2. And I'm going to pass in the self, and I'm going to say coefficient underscore 2 is going to equal 2. No, it's not going to equal 2. Just kidding. It's going to equal self.a plus self.b. Well, okay, why is this? And see, it auto-completed weird again. Okay, so why is this? Well, let's make a comment and think about it. So really we have x plus a times x plus b, right? So really we get x times x, which is x squared. That's the 1x squared. And then, so we're going to have that x squared. And then we're going to have x times b. So we're going to have bx plus a times x, which is ax, plus then a times b. And I'm gonna get rid of this comment in a moment, but let's just continue this. So really, this is going to equal x squared plus, if I rearrange this, a plus b times x plus a times b. Okay, so that's how I get the self.a plus self.b, because remember, self.a equals a, self.b equals b. Okay, if you're a little confused at this point, stop the video, think about it for a moment, and then come back. Okay, I'm going to erase this stuff now, though. And by erase, I mean delete. Okay, so now I want to return coefficient 2. Okay, and now I'm going to create another method, and I'm going to call that constant underscore 1. I'm going to pass in the self, and I'm going to say constant underscore 1 equals, remember it was a times b this time, so we're going to do self.a times self.b, and we're going to return constant underscore 1. Okay? All right, that's enough for our class. So let's now fold some of the stuff. So do some code folding so we can make it a little bit nice, and we can actually just fold the whole class. Look at that. Okay, so now we want to write to a file. Okay, so we're going to open a file to write to. So, and actually we're going to append to a file. So I'm going to take file 1, and I'm not going to say dot. I'm going to say open, and then we're going to write to our quadratics.md file. Okay. All right, and we're going to append stuff. So that's where the A comes from. Okay, cool. Now I want to let's come up with 10 problems for our worksheet. So we're going to do a for loop. And the way we can do that is we can say for x in range 0 to 10. Now it's not going to actually do 10. It's going to go 0 up to 9. So it goes up to the number below it. We start with 0. A lot of programming is 0 base. So really 0 through 9 is 10 numbers. Okay. So anyways, so we're going to say for that, we're going to write some stuff. Okay. So what we're going to do is create a div for each problem. So I'm going to say file 1.write, and then we're going to write an opening div, and we want to kind of format our code a little bit. And maybe we use like atom.beautify later, but maybe not, whatever. And then, or beautify, I think is the name of the extension. So anyways, we'll do file1.write. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to write out the problem. So we want to have like a paragraph tag. And we probably want to have a heading before that, actually. So we're going to do an F string here, a format string, which you can do in Python 3. And then we're going to write an H3 tag. And then between the H3 tag, we're going to write problem, and then maybe like number, or now we can just do problem, and then we're going to do x plus 1, because remember, starting at 0. And then we'll close out our H3 tag and close out our parentheses. And so it's going to list out what problem number we're on. And then what we're going to do is we're going to now write the problem. So we're going to say file1.write, start with an F string again, and start with an opening paragraph tag. And we'll say factor the following quadratic. And we'll do a non-breaking space, and that's how I do that in HTML. And then I'm just going to move down the line here, and I'm going to start with my quadratics. So I'm going to, well, what I need to do actually is move up here, and for each of these, I have to create a quadratic. So I'm going to say new underscore equation equals quadratic. And I have to pass in both A and B, remember. So I'm going to have to generate those. So actually, I want to go up here, and I want to import the random module. And I'm going to make a random list of numbers that I want as choices for A and B. I'm going to say random underscore list, and I'm going to do numbers 2 through 9. So just 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, these are only a small amount of numbers. If you wanted a larger amount of numbers and a larger list, you could do a for loop and append into the list as one way to do it. There's a bunch of ways you could probably do this. And now what I'm going to do is say A equals random.choice, and then pass in the random list. And then B equals random.choice, and pass in, again, the random list. Okay, so now I've got A and B, and I'm passing those into a new equation. Now I can go back to here and continue creating this. So I'm going to say, not mu equation, I'm going to say new, wow, I'm going to say new equation. And we got to take a look at our methods. Okay, so I've got, I want coefficient 1. All right, so I'm going to pass in coefficient 1, okay, that method, and that's going to be times x, and then we're going to do a superstring, or superscript, rather. We can do that right in the HTML, and then let's do a plus, and I'm just doing the slash here to keep from going above the 80 character lines. But you see this little line here that Adam gives me. I have the font really jacked up, but if I were going to bring it down, you can see it warns me when there's 80 characters, and I don't want to go past that, but I'm keeping well within that range. It's just a programming thing. You want to make it readable, so when you split screens, and it used to be a thing when the terminals were really small back in the day, back in the ancient times. But anyways, so all right, so now what I'm going to do is another method from the new equation, and that's going to be coefficient 2. Remember, we were spelling these out, and we're going to have that times x, and then plus, and let's just be nice with our formatting and do, now we have another method from new equation, and it's going to be constant 1, okay, and that's by itself, okay, and we're going to put like a period there, so we want to factor this. Let's close our parentheses and close our string here. Okay, so cool. We've got factor the following quadratic. It's going to, each time it runs through this for loop, it's going to create a new equation and new A's and B's from this random list, and it's going to create these new problems to factor. Cool. All right, and so now I want to keep my indenting good. So I'm going to now just give a little spacing at the bottom of the problem. So I'm going to file one.write. I'm going to write some few little line breaks here. And actually, while I'm doing that, at the end of these, I probably want, for formatting, I want to add a new line there. Let's add a new line there. We add a new line there. So we're kind of formatting our HTML, and let's add a new line there. So this will actually format into the markdown document. Okay. And okay. So now what we need to do is we need to close the div for the particular problem. So we're going to say file one.write, and we're going to now close out the div. Okay. And I think that's what we need to do to generate our problem. So we're going to go now, we're going to indent back and come out of the for loop. So notice the indentation. So now we're going to, at the end of this, close our file. Okay, and we do that by, I want file1.close because I said file1 is equal to this quadratic.markdown. Okay, so now I've closed that out, and I've run through my class, and now I want to run it. So there's a couple ways you can run this in Atom, and I'm going to talk about some packages now. So what you can do is you can open up this terminal, perfectly fine. You can cd into my worksheets, I think was the folder I called it, worksheets, and then you can just do Python 3 and then the name of the file and run it, and it will run just fine. Now, you can do that. There is at this time, a good terminal package for Atom that I've found. And so I'm going to do Control Comma to bring up my settings and take a look at some of the packages that I have installed. There's only very few. So one of the ones I'm using, I use at work, is FTP Remote Edit. There's IV Terminal. IV Terminal is working very good. And then you want to get this other one marked down to PDF. So what you would do to do that is when you bring up the settings, now you can either do Control Comma to bring up the settings, or you can do File and where is it? Maybe Edit. No, it's got to be View somewhere. I don't know. I just do Control Comma, but I know it's somewhere. Where did they put it? It's very odd. Maybe I right click. Yeah, you can right click, and I'm not seeing it either. Anyways, Control Comma. I just do the keyboard shortcut. All right, so you can go to install here, and then you can search packages. Let me bring this down here for a moment. And you can search packages. If you want to search themes, you can search themes. While we're here, I'm just going to search for Dracula because it's October, the Halloween month. And I'm getting distracted. No, all right, I'll come back and do that later. But, you could install themes. Anyways, all right, so I have this terminal. So to open the terminal, I do Control-Shift-T. And that brings me up this nice thing about this terminal, and it's a little bit nicer, in my opinion, than VS Code, the one in VS Code, because it brings me directly into this. So whatever file whatever folder I'm in for the file I'm viewing, it's going to bring it up in that folder, which I like. It's my personal preference. Some people are different. But anyways, so I'm going to do Python 3 and then just the name of the file. So quadratics.py. And if I haven't made any mistakes, it's not going to give me any errors. If I have, it'll let me know. Okay, and I haven't made any mistakes. That's good. All right, so now I'm going to exit out of here, and I'm going to take a look at my blank. Oh, wait, it's not blank because I've written all this HTML with all these problems into it. Nice. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, just up here, I'm going to use pre-tags. So a pre-tag kind of just doesn't format the text inside. And I'm just going to use that to do a name with the underline here. And then, I'll tab over a little bit and do the date with the underline. And maybe you can, say Mr. Ungert's class or something. I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, so you could do that if you want to. Okay, so now I can do a couple things with this Markdown to PDF package. I can go right here and go and hit convert, or you notice that I have this shortcut, which is Alt-Control-E. I like my shortcuts. You see videos where I'm doing Emacs or Vim where I like my finger shortcuts. So I'm going to do Alt-Control-E, and you'll see it's converting to a PDF, and then you'll see the sign, it's converted successfully. And you'll notice that we have this file, quadratics to PDF. Now, if I look at this, it's going to be a bunch of odd symbols because it doesn't really interpret it that well in this particular editor. A regular code editor won't interpret a PDF file very well. But now let's take a look. So let's go to our files and go to our Linux files into my Worksheets folder. And let's then open this. And you'll see that I have my name under there, Mr. Unkert's class, the date, and problem one, all the problems listed out here. There's a little bit of formatting here, but I have 10 randomly generated problems. You could do as many as you want. All you have to do to create random generated problems is go into here and change the number. If I wanted to make this 100, I just type 100. If I wanted to make that 1,000, I just type, it's trying to auto suggest some number. I think it's on the, I could make 1,000 random problems, and it wouldn't take that long, okay, for the program to run. But all right, let's say instead, let's change this to quadratics 2.markdown. Okay, and now let me show you something. Let's make a file. We have to make the file beforehand. So quadratics 2.markdown. Okay, so we've got that file. So we had quadratics 1, quadratics 2. Okay, Control-Shift-T to bring up that terminal, and I can use the up arrow to go back to that command, python3 quadratics.py. I ran it. Bam. Okay, now let's exit out of my terminal. Okay, and let's take a look and go quadratics 2.markdown. Okay, Alt-Control-E, converting to PDF, done. Okay, now let's take a look at that file. Okay, so this is quadratics 2.pdf. So I didn't put any pre stuff, so I want to put my name and stuff, but look. A 100 problems, randomly generated. Pretty sweet. If you're a math teacher, this is worth learning because it's going to save you tons and tons of time. In my previous career, I was a high school math teacher. I was a former AP calculus teacher. I taught algebra 2, though, also. I taught pre-calculus. I could have come up with algorithms for all those types of problems and generated as many random problems as I wanted to almost instantly. So I've done this video. We're talking maybe it's 20 minutes to write a program, and you got problems that would take you hours and hours and hours to generate. So anyways, I hope you like this video. If you did like this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, as it really helps the channel grow. And if you've already done that, thank you. I thank you for your support. I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.